The movie begins with two journalists going to Vitebsk prison in Dzержinski, Belarus. They meet up with the warden, who escorts them inside the prison. He then takes them to one part of the prison where they can see a gigantic inmate named Peter Raudsep sitting and the guards putting 3 more inmates inside. They then start recording as a fight starts between the 4, and after a bloody battle, Peter takes the lives of all 3 prisoners. On the other side, a wealthy and greedy television producer named Ian Breck-Breckel is watching the battle and says he wants him. As a result, he orders the journalist to get him, so the two make a deal with the warden by offering a belt of money in exchange for Peter. Back at Breck's center of operations, he begins to check on the preparations for the live show and the ratings for each country. He then orders his team to reach every spot in the world, including an Eskimo sitting in his little igloo. He also says he wants everyone worldwide to know they will go live in 22 hours, so he instructs Eddie, one of his staff, to reach 100% awareness on the internet. Outside the base, Breck talks to Goldman, the person in charge of installing cameras and microphones to cover every spot on the island. Goldman reveals to Breck that they need to catch up and may be unable to put on the show as planned. Breck then asks him about it, and he says that he got 87 cluster cameras ready and rigged. 147 solos with all built-in mix, got 60-70 all ready to go out in the field. He continues to say that despite those 400 lenses, there are dead spots all over the island and that he needs more time before the show goes live. In response, Breck orders him to improvise, overcome, and adapt. Then, before he leaves, he encourages him by saying he's the best and sure he'll make it in time. In the meantime, Breck's girlfriend Julie joins them and tells him that Donna, the news reporter, has already arrived and waiting for him. During the interview, Donna asks him about his plan to broadcast the show since there's no big network to support him. He then says he'll use the internet, bringing 10 prisoners facing death row from third world prisons and giving them a chance to fight each other. 9 will die, and the last one standing will win his freedom and some money to start a new life for himself. When Donna says that what he's doing is immoral and illegal, he gets angry and decides to end the meeting. However, before he leaves, he tells her that his number of views will destroy any show televised on any network this year. During this time, Bella and Eddie inform Breckel that the Arab contender is dead and that they need to find a replacement as soon as possible. Bella suggests José Habanando, a hardcore Guatemalan convicted of 13 torture killings, as a replacement. However, Breck refuses because he already has 2 Mexicans in the competition and insists on adding an Arab contender for the Arab people to cheer. On the other hand, Eddie suggests someone incarcerated in El Salvador who's a 6'7" Islamic fundamentalist, and he agrees with this suggestion. Inside the jail, the warden introduces 2 of their staff to a killer named Hashim. After that, he brings 2 other prisoners to give them a quick view, where one is a strong, bald Jack Conrad awaiting his death penalty and refusing to follow the warden's order. In Hashim's cell, the warden tells Jack and the other prisoner to attack him. However, Hashim eliminates him in a short amount of time. Then, the warden calls Jack to attack, but he refuses, so he has no choice but to hand the key over to Hashim. When they face each other, Jack kills Hashim with 2 hits. On the other side, Breck sees all this and asks Eddie for information about Jack. Eddie then says that Jack's an American and got arrested a year ago for killing 3 men. Bella then says he told her he wanted an Arab. However, Breck concludes that the people will enjoy the cowboy better than the Arab, so he decides to put Jack as a perfect fit for the show. Now, all the prisoners, Helmut from Germany, Dominic from Italy, Saiga from Japan, Creston and Jack from the United States, Rosa and her husband, Peco from Mexico, Ewan from the United Kingdom, Yesantwa from Ghana, and Peter from Estonia are in one room. After that, Baxter starts telling them how the game works. He tells them that they will all take them to an island where they will fight each other and that each of them has a rig in his ankle that contains 20 ounces of plastic explosives that will explode in 30 hours. He explains that the only way to get rid of it is by being the last survivor after 30 hours. In addition to that, he mentions that there are 2 other ways for them to detonate the ankle rig. The first is by pulling the red pull tab, which will give a 10-second delay, and the second is by messing with the rig to unlock it, but it'll directly explode if they do so. He then wraps up his speech by saying it's just a simple game of killing or being killed. After that, they transferred the sentenced individuals to a deserted island in the South Pacific in 2 helicopters. On the way, Jack sees the operation base used by Breck to broadcast the show. With the helicopter's compass, Jack figures out the direction he'll take to locate the tower. As soon as they reach the other side of the island, the live stream starts, and Baxter drops the prisoners one by one, giving each of them the key that will let them get out of their chains. The first 2 contenders jump without putting up any resistance. However, when the time comes for Dominic, he starts talking and resisting. As a result, he accidentally lands upon a steel pipe and dies instantly. When Baxter comes to Sayid to drop him off, Saige steals his sunglasses and kicks him. After that, he jumps from the helicopter with an acrobatic move which causes the other prisoner to laugh. When it's Jack's turn, he refuses to open his mouth and hits Baxter with his elbow, and this causes him to get angry and throw Jack out of the helicopter without his keys. On the island's beach, Helmut catches Yasantwa off guard with a quick punch, and then he starts beating her and choking her in the water. Yasantwa tries to run away, but she can't do so. Then, she grabs a tree branch and stabs him in the neck with it. After that, she pulls the red pull from his ankle rig and lets him blow up. While in the transmission room, Breck and his team are pleased with how the show's going. Then, Eddie tells them that they have reached the first 5 million users on the site. However, Breck insists that this is only the start because he wants to achieve an online rating equivalent to 40 million viewers. In the meantime, Jack confronts Paco and starts choking him, thinking that he's tracking him. But Paco says he's just looking for his wife, so Jack lets him go. Before leaving, Paco gives his keys to him, saying it would be of some assistance to him, and then expresses his gratitude and leave. He can finally free himself from the chains and continue his journey. For the time being, Creston is trying to unlock his right ankle when he notices a camera and proceeds to destroy it. Then, a helicopter passes by and throws a bag. He runs for it and finds food, water, and a knife. On the other hand, Saida comes in and a brawl immediately breaks out. It turns out that Saiga is a professional fighter, and he beats Creston, who had covered his face with the parachute before running away. He then tries to find him but can't locate him, so he winds up having a face-off with Ewan, who's putting on his glasses before the fight starts. Ewan then talks to him and suggests they team up together to take down all the other prisoners, and then he gives him back the glasses saying that they look better on him. While Jack is looking for a high spot to find his direction to the control tower, he gets surprised by Peter, who attacks him. A fight then breaks out with Jack gaining the upper hand, then the 2 fall down a slope, and suddenly, they realize that one of them has lost his red pull. When Jack realizes it's Peter, he hits him with a stone and pushes him off the edge of the cliff, and then he watches as Peter blows up. At the same time, Eddie reveals to his team that they have reached 12 million people watching their show. And as the broadcast progresses, an FBI agent receives information from one of Jack's former classmates that leads them to discover that Jack's true identity is Jack Riley. After that, an FBI agent named Brad Wilkins contacts Sarah Kavanaugh, Jack's girlfriend, and gives her an update on the situation over the phone. At night, Sarah goes to the bar where she works and sets up to watch the competition. She finds out that to be able to watch, she'll need to sign up and pay $49.99. She then signs up, at which point she recognizes Jack, yet she can't accept the information they included in his bio. Going back to the island, Paco finally finds Rosa, but unfortunately, Ewan finds them too. Therefore, Paco tells his wife to run away before beginning his battle with Ewan. After that, he successfully defeats him, but Saida manages to get a hold of Rosa. Ewan takes advantage of the destruction and uses a tree branch to break his leg. After that, Ewan ties him up to the tree and forces him to watch as they murder Rosa. At the station, Julie expresses her disagreement with what's happening. She asks them to stop the streaming, but Breck tells her that Rosa is a killer and that she's going to die regardless. On the other hand, Goldman is also experiencing sadness and decides to go out for some fresh air. In the meantime, Ewan pulls Rosa's red pole and lets her explode, but when they check on Paco, they can't locate him in his spot. Later that night, Jack finds the wounded Paco, who tells him about what happened earlier and asks for his help to kill Ewan and Sega. However, Jack is only focusing on finding the operation base so that he may make a phone call and seek help. On the other side, Yasantwa faces Creston, who encourages her to calm down and assures her that he will not kill her. He explains that he only seeks a way to remove the rig from his ankle and isn't planning to harm her. Later, they both set fire and hide inside a crashed plane, but Yasantwa tricks him. She sneaks up behind him, then suddenly pulls his red pole and runs away, leaving him to explode. At this moment, Breck gives Eddie instructions to drop a bag off to Ewan and Sega to give them an advantage in the competition. Returning to Jack and Peko, Jack uses 2 pieces of iron to block the signal from the tracking device attached to his ankle. In the meantime, Eddie reports to Breck that Jack has disappeared from the screen. On the other side, Jack gives Peko water and heads to the operation base. In the FBI office, the agents drop the investigation because they conclude that finding the island is impossible, but Wilkins insists on continuing the investigation. However, an agent tells him that Jack is a former Delta Force operative. Unfortunately, the local police caught him on a Black Ops mission in El Salvador after the bombing of a building controlled by drug dealers. The agent also tells him that no one knows Jack's real identity, and that he's working for the United States. At this moment, Goldman tells Breck that Jack is on his way there, and because they didn't put surveillance cameras around the operation base, they can't track him. A few moments later, Jack arrives at the base, and after knocking out a guard, he makes his way to the tower, where he knocks out the second guard and then calls Sarah. He gives her his bank account number and tells her to take the money and take care of herself, but she responds that she doesn't need his money. What she needs is him. At this point, Breck sees him and calls Baxter. Nevertheless, before they cut the electricity from the tower, Jack gives Sarah the coordinates of the island to transfer them to the FBI office. Then, he makes his way back to the force before they kill him. After some time has passed, he finds Ewan and Saeed have beaten Peko to death, then they burn him. The next day, he puts an iron bar around his hand and goes for Saiga, armed with 2 big knives. He punches Saiga several times and kicks him, but before he can kill him, Ewan steps in, forcing him to retreat and hide inside a small fort. Saiga and Ewan follow him. At this moment, Yasantwa surprises him with a knife. Nonetheless, he easily defeats her, and Ewan shoots an arrow at her. After that, Saiga sets a fire inside the fort next to some explosive boxes, but he finds a way to escape and tries to help Yasantwa. Still, she refuses his assistance and pulls the red pole from her ankle rig, which causes her to blow herself up. After that, Ewan and Saiga think everyone is dead, so they start fighting. However, while Saiga is running away from Ewan, Jack surprises him with a quick punch. A bloody fight follows, with Jack getting the upper hand, but not killing Saiga. Ewan then comes, and the 2 team up against him, who beats them both and kills Saiga with his knife. Ewan manages to escape, and Jack follows him. Then, he finally gets up to him on the cliff's edge, but Ewan refuses to fight him and instead dives into the river. At this point, he follows him into the water. Outside the river, the helicopter sends a bag with a rifle inside, so Ewan takes it and starts firing at Jack, hiding behind a rock. He then tries to run away, but Ewan shoots him in the shoulder. While searching for Jack, he comes across a cameraman, accompanied by a guard dressed in ghillie suits. He then kills them both and takes their M5 submachine guns. During this time, Jack sneaks up on him and punches him, which causes the fight to resume. In the end, Ewan hits him with a knife and pushes him over the cliff's edge, making him roll over. Ewan then shoots him with the rifle, but the gun runs out of bullets before he can kill him. On the other hand, Jack's body is now floating in the water, and because he's not making any movements, everyone thinks that he's dead by the fall. In the meantime, Breck reaches his goal of 40 million views. At this moment, Baxter shares with Breck that the FBI has sent us Navy SEALs to take him into custody and that they will be there in an hour. So Breck decides to leave without his crew. At the same time, Goldman hears their conversation and confronts him, but he then gives Baxter the order to kill him. Later, Ewan makes his way to the control tower. After Breck deactivates the bomb from his ankle, he asks him for the cash they promised as the prize. He refuses and says he'll give him his freedom, as he reveals that he fixed the game in his favor. After that, Ewan loses his temper, takes an M5 from one of the guards, and uses it to kill them all. He then rushes inside to look for Breck, but finds his technical team instead. He then begins killing each of them one at a time, even though they have no idea that Breck is abandoning them. After he finishes with everyone else, he turns to Eddie, whom he saved for last. Then he asks whether he enjoyed watching all of this. Eddie then says he's sorry, but Ewan tells him it's too late and proceeds to kill him. On the other hand, Jack eventually comes back and ends Baxter's life. While on Ewan, he turns around to find Julie, but he hears Jack from behind telling him to sit down, and then he shoots him several times after talking briefly about his past. Moments later, Jack hears a helicopter sound, so he grabs Ewan's 2 machine guns and starts running after Breck, who eventually reaches it and takes off. Even though he tries to shoot the helicopter several times, it's too late. Breck manages to escape. When Breck thinks he survives because Jack's machine guns are empty, Julie comes with Ewan's reactivated rig of explosives. She gives it to Jack, who subsequently throws it inside the helicopter. The helicopter then explodes and crashes into a cliff, killing Breck and ending his vicious game. The movie ends with Jack, now a free man, driving back home to reunite with Sarah in Texas. Sarah then notices him on the porch and is surprised to see him, presuming he's already dead.